Of Sioux City is home to more than 85,000 Catholics, and all were waiting on today's announcement, the election of a new pope 17 days after the passing of Pope Francis. KTIV got reaction from some of the faithful.
I thought it was going to be until like next week or something. There were, it was going to be conflicting from different ideas within the church, but yeah, it's awesome that we were able to get one pope real quick.
That kind of shows, I guess, that there was a pretty strong feeling going into the conclave that there were only a few serious contenders in terms of the cardinals, and this came to the surface quickly, and I'm going to chalk it up to the Holy Spirit.
It was absolutely surprising and exciting to find that we had the first American Pope, and also encouraging that it is someone from Chicago, from the Midwest. Those of us who are from the Midwest probably have some sensibilities about what that means, and that's exciting.
So the Southwest suburb of Chicago, so it's awesome to see someone that is from the Chicagoland area to be Pope, which I think is an amazing thing. I've got some rooted pride from that.
I like to say he's an American. He was born in America, but the thing I like is his experience of the church is very international, and I think that's important in the role of the Pope. So. And he's got strong ties to Latin America, teaching the seminary in Peru for a number of years, working in Rome. He really has kind of the international perspective that I think is wonderful in a pope.